$5 million. For $5 million, this could be yours. That was the first of the cards. You know what that card is?
Gold card.
It's the gold card. The Trump card, gold card.
Who's the first buyer?
Me.
President Trump's proposal to create a U.S. gold card isn't really new. Since 1882, the United States has charged immigrants an admission fee for coming to the country, starting at 50 cents a person, raising it to $4 in 1907. Today, the U.S. already has a special visa program for those able to make substantial investments. Substantial as in $800,000.
The U.S. has had a golden visa program since the early 1990s. It comes in the form of EB-5, and it's been traditionally used to build big real estate projects in the U.S. So even places like Hudson Yards in New York City has been funded through this sort of program.
Kristen Surek is an assistant professor at the London School of Economics, where she has studied what is known as investment immigration. The revived push in the U.S. parallels other countries experimenting with golden visas and passports.
They're actually much more common than most people think. So if we're thinking about the golden passport program, so citizenship, there's over 20 countries with legal provisions that enable this, and there's about a dozen that regularly approve people through their programs. For thinking about the residents, the golden visa programs, they're all over the place. You can find them in just about 60 countries, 5 territories, even in places like the US and half of the EU member states.
The programs vary according to how much money is required, whether it's an investment in the country and what kind of investment, or just a fee paid to the government. And, by the way, whether the immigrant only gets to reside in the country or actually becomes a citizen.
Golden passports are sometimes also known as citizenship by investment. So these are programs where you donate to a government or invest in a country, and in pretty short order, and sometimes without even ever going to the country, you become a citizen. It's a little bit different to a golden visa program, where you get not citizenship in the country, but residence in the country.
Whatever form these programs take, the goal is always the same: growing the economy of the host country. And the smaller the country, the more of a difference they can make. Investment immigration programs account for up to half of the GDP of the island nations of Dominica, St. Kitts, and St. Lucia.
So usually the idea is to bring investments into the country. Now, if we're talking about very, very small states, and usually they're the ones who are doing the citizenship programs, the amount of money that a government can bring in through these programs can be absolutely enormous. So some countries see well over 30% of GDP coming in through these programs. Now, if you're thinking about the golden visa programs where you're just getting residents, we're often talking about much bigger economies. In terms of what countries get out of it, we'll be more targeted if we're looking at those investments.
But that's where the math doesn't always add up. One immigrant's investing can be one local citizen's crowding out, as in real estate. Take Spain, for example.
We've seen Spain shut its program down, Ireland shut its program down, the UK shut its program down. And if you're only approving a couple hundred, people per year, a couple hundred applications per year, is it really worth it to keep on the books, given the potential risks involved?
Spain's scramble for investment began after the European debt crisis of 2009. Since the start of its program in 2013, Spain granted more than 15,000 visas tied to real estate investment. From 2016 to 2023, the program generated $10 billion in investments, but that also helped drive up property values.
A invertir en innovación, a dinamizar nuestro tejido productivo y no para quienes simplemente buscan especular con un bien como es la vivienda.
Spain shut down its program as of April, but even as countries like Spain have cut back, others, like New Zealand, are ramping up.
We've had about 200 people apply, which is about 150 more than applied in the previous 2 years, so it's becoming more and more popular.
Stuart Nash is a former Minister of Economic Development in New Zealand and is now a principal in Nash Kelly, which works to attract high net worth individuals to the country.
What are the requirements?
Yeah, so there are 2 categories. We've got the growth category, and you got to invest 5 million Kiwi, which is about 3 million US. And then we've got one called the balance category, which you've got to invest 10 million Kiwi, which again is about 6 million US. You've got to do that over 6 months. For the growth category, it's got to be in managed funds or companies. The balance category, it's a little wider. You can do bonds, you can do equities, you can also do managed funds and businesses as well. So, we really get at Nash Kelly that if you're sitting in America, you're looking at New Zealand, it looks like this oasis that you want to go to. You've read about it. Kiwis are really friendly. You know about the golf courses. You know about the environment. But you don't know much about the investment ecosystem. So it's a little bit of a risk.
When you put together your program in New Zealand, did you go to school, as it were, on some of the other programs and say, we don't want to do that, we're going to structure it this way instead?
Yeah, very much so. So, in Portugal, I think you only have to invest $200,000. It's not a lot of money. In New Zealand, we decided that, we want the people who can drive success, who have been successful. The European Court of Justice has just ruled the Malta Golden Visa illegal because it's bringing in, they think, or has a potential to bring in a whole lot of dirty money. We didn't want that in New Zealand, hence the reason why the high level of integrity to prove that the money you're investing in New Zealand has come from legitimate means. We didn't want this to be a backdoor for criminal money coming in.
The cost of granting residency to the wrong people, as Nash puts it, is just one of the things countries have to take into account in determining whether investment immigration is worth it.
There can be a lot of concerns about foreigners coming in. Xenophobic sentiments, you can find them across the world in various measures as well. So governments have to balance what they think are appropriate trade-offs in terms of how many foreigners do we want to allow in the country? Because sometimes you can have people who have a lot of money, but maybe they gained it through nefarious means, or maybe there could be shady things in the background. So making sure that these are the people you want to let in is also a very important decision to make.
Screening out undesirable candidates for immigration may help make sure the right people are admitted and that their money is going into the right projects. But it also can get in the way, as it does for the current U.S. program, according to Alex Norasta, Vice President for Economic and Social Policy Studies at Cato Institute.
So the EB-5 is a portion of the employment-based green card in the United States. There are 10,000 of these visas set aside for EB-5 every year. What we've seen in recent years is basically about 5,000 of those are taken up by actual investors. It costs at least $800,000 or around $800,000 to make an investment in the U.S. It has to create a certain number of jobs. The EB-5 system has not worked well, and the primary reason is exactly what you said, which is it's an incredibly complicated visa. It's very burdensome to work through. So it's really suffered under this incredible burden of red tape that just keeps piling on decade after decade in the United States.
President Trump's gold card idea would cut through much of this by simply putting a price tag on admission into the country.
We don't know all the details of President Trump's gold card proposal. It hasn't been passed into law by Congress, and he doesn't have the legal authority to issue green cards based on this. But as far as we know the details, it would be selling lawful permanent residency, also known as a green card, in exchange for a $5 million fee paid to the U.S. government. This is a fee paid. This is not an investment. This is not an investment that these foreigners would get to own in the United States, but it is a straight up fee paid to the United States government of $5 million.
If in truth Congress were to adopt this approach and pass legislation so it was legal, could it make a material difference to the debt or the deficit of the United States?
It's very unlikely that selling gold cards like this would make a material large difference to the U.S. deficit or U.S. spending. For one, the price is way too high.
But Norasta does think that the president may be onto something, creating a market for U.S. admission and letting Adam Smith do the rest, something suggested some time ago by Nobel Prize-winning economist Gary Becker.
Our fiscal problems go far beyond what can be resolved by selling a gold card. However, if the price were a lot lower, if the price were, say, like $100,000 or $200,000, I think you could see a large increase in the number of wealthier immigrants coming to the United States to settle. That would produce extra economic activity here that the government could tax, and there would be a huge increase in visa fees paid to the U.S. government. So I think, ironically, the only way that we could actually make a difference in the deficit through such a scheme would be by lowering the price dramatically.
If you had total control and could design any system that you wanted, what would it look like?
I'd probably go back to the 19th century and make it just incredibly easy for people to come to the United States lawfully, so long as they aren't a criminal or a national security threat or are sick. But if I have to charge a price, if I have to have a restriction on the number of immigrants coming to the US, I would charge a price. I would sell visas. This is sort of economics 101. If you have scarcity of a good or service, that good or service can be efficiently allocated only through the pricing mechanism, only by charging a price, and only by allocating those visas to those who are willing to pay the price. So charging a price for a visa is a very good way to allocate them to people who really want it.
How do we make sure we get the right people in?
So what a pricing system does is it internalizes the costs and benefits of these decisions to the people who actually make them. And as a result, we're going to get a much better mix of people selected by the market economy who can do much better here in the United States than those who could be selected by Congress.
Narasta says that a market-based system could even help address the country's struggles with illegal immigration by providing a legal path.
A market-based system would undermine illegal immigration into the United States because it would give an avenue for even low-skilled immigrants like illegal immigrants to come here lawfully. Currently, what we see is that illegal immigrants pay upwards of $10,000 in smuggling fees to come to the United States, and they don't even have a guaranteed way to stay, so it's a highly risky investment. If instead those individuals could borrow money or could get loans from their family members or could otherwise save up wages in their own country, then they can buy one of these green cards, come to the United States. They don't have to come illegally. You actually have a goalpost where if they make a certain amount of money in their home country, they could afford to buy one of these visas and come here. It would really undermine the black market. It would undermine human smuggling. It would destroy those markets, and it would allow a way for even low and mid-skilled workers to be able to come here because ultimately it's just a price. It's just amount of money. You and I, we're not super wealthy individuals in the US, but we can borrow money for economic activities. I think that banking systems throughout the world, the financial institutions would be falling over themselves, head over heels, to give loans to these individuals to buy green cards, to come to the United States, to be able to work because the returns on them are so high. These people would be willing and able to repay them. There are enormous market and profit opportunities for them. This is something that would be a boon to the U.S. financial system, to the workers involved, and to the U.S. economy at large.
The American economy runs on immigrant labor and benefits from the fruits of globalization. In The Wealth of Nations, Adam Smith wrote that it is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from their regard to their own interest. If residency in the country is the dinner, markets might set the right price for immigrants to pay.
3连关注，点赞也行。